Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a stack of research and articles on the desk today, but
Let's
honestly,
run them aside.
we're pushing most of them aside to focus on just one.
Mm.
It's a piece of writing that is, well, it's technically philosophy, but it feels a lot more like a survival guide.
It really does. For anyone who has ever felt just completely overwhelmed by the sheer fact of parenthood.
Yeah.
We are looking at an essay called Arrival by the writer and philosopher Pedro Malha. And I want to be clear right off the bat,
Right.
because I know our listeners might hear parenting and philosophy and expect, I don't know, a manual. This isn't a parenting guide.
Thank God for that.
It's not going to tell you how to swaddle a baby or, how to deal with a toddler's tantrum in the supermarket.
I think we have enough of those. We are drowning in how-to.
Exactly. This is something deeper. Mala's work is all about the philosophy of presence, of memory, of really just seeing things differently. He's asking what actually happens to a human being's internal world when a child enters it.
Right. Not the schedule, not the bank account.
No, the structure of the parent's reality. Why does it feel so heavy?
It's a fascinating question because usually when we use the word arrival, we're talking about a distinct event.
Mm.
You arrive at the airport, you cross the threshold, the event is over.
You're now there.
You're there. In parenting, we have the due date. The baby arrives. It's a before and after photo.
Right. That's the standard definition. It's linear, it happens, and then it settles. But Malha's central thesis, and this is the thing that it really rewires how you see your own life, is that arrival in parenting is not a moment.
No.
It is a continuous condition.
He uses this phrase that I've been turning over in my head all week. Someone has arrived and has not left.
Has not left. It sounds almost ominous when you say it like that, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds like the start of a ghost story.
Yeah.
But it's just the raw, factual reality of having a child.
It is.
So our mission today is to unpack this philosophy of presence. We want to understand why this specific framing, this idea of ongoing arrival, explains the bone-deep exhaustion of parenting better than any sleep deprivation study ever could.
And the real aha moment here for me, and I think for you listening, is going to be challenging that idea of normal.
Oh, yeah.
We spend so much energy waiting for the dust to settle. We think, once they're out of diapers or once they're in school,
Things will go back to normal.
Exactly. And Malha is grabbing us by the shoulders and saying, the dust doesn't settle. Normal hasn't been paused. Normal has been replaced. Permanently. The structure of your reality has changed because the arrival is happening every single day.
So let's get into the weeds of this because he starts very, very physically. He talks about the contraction of the world. And anyone who has had a newborn knows this visceral feeling. The world suddenly just shrinks down to the size of a bedroom.
It's a claustrophobic description, isn't it? He writes about the world narrowing to a single room, a bed, or a chair by a window.
Yes.
It's that initial intense period where time completely rearranges itself around biological imperatives. Feeding, waking, sleeping, the days narrow and the nights just stretch out.
I remember those 3.0 a.m. shifts. It feels like you're the only person on Earth. It's a very specific kind of loneliness. Even though you're holding another person,
Totally.
you feel cut off from the flow of the rest of the world.
Maha describes that perfectly. He says the early arrival is total. It occupies your entire field of vision. There's a physical weight in your arms where there was none before.
Right.
But here's the pivot, and this is where Maha goes beyond the cliche of the tired parent. He says that while that initial intensity, the 3.0 a.m. feedings, eventually fades, the arrival itself continues.
This is the part that I think is so easy to miss. We think because the baby isn't screaming, the pressure is off. We talked about how the child changes the air just by existing in the house.
It's the colonization of space. I love this image he uses. He says the house learns a new shape.
I love that.
The rooms are no longer neutral containers where you just hang out. They are defined by the child. They hold traces of use and interruption.
Right. It's the toys on the floor, the baby gate on the stairs, but it's more than clutter, isn't it? It feels like the air density changes.
Much more than clutter. It's mental mapping. Even if the child isn't in the room, the door is left open, just in case. You walk differently to avoid the creaky floorboard.
Oh, yeah.
The space is permanently altered by their existence. You are navigating your own home differently because of this other gravity. The house is no longer yours in the way it was.
It's shared territory.
It is.
Malha calls this the pressure of fact. I want to drill down on this because I think we often confuse this with the pressure of tasks. We think we're stressed because we have too much to do.
Yes. This is a crucial distinction. We usually complain about the laundry, the packed lunches, the driving to soccer practice. Those are tasks.
Things on a list.
You can list them, you can hire someone to do them, you can automate them. The pressure effect is it's ontological.
Okay, ontological. Let's pause there. That's a heavy philosophy word. Break that down for us in this context.
Ontology is the study of being, of existence. So when Mala talks about ontological pressure, he means the pressure that comes from the sheer weight of the existence of the child. It's not about what you are doing for them. It's about the fact that they are.
It's the pressure that someone is simply here.
Precisely. Someone depends. Someone will be affected by what happens next. And the kicker is that this condition persists regardless of your internal state.
Right.
You could be sick, you could be depressed, you could be having the worst day of your career, but the arrival remains in place. It cannot be paused.
That's the relentless part. You can't call a timeout on their existence. You can't say, I need to not be a parent for 20 minutes to regroup.
You can physically leave the room, sure, but the fact of the child remains with you. The tether is never cut. That is the pressure of fact.
Which brings us to a concept he discusses that I found really challenging. It's about fairness, or rather, the lack of it. He talks about the relationship being fundamentally asymmetrical.
This is a hard pill to swallow for modern parents.
It is.
Because we love the idea of growing together or this mutual journey. We want it to be a partnership.
Yeah.
But Mala is very stark here. The arrival is not reciprocal.
How so?
Well, think about the timeline. The child arrives into a world that is already formed. The movie is already playing. The house exists. The parents exist. The rules exist.
They're just entering the scene.
They're just entering the scene. But the adult does not arrive in the same way. The adult is the landscape that gets hit by the meteor.
That is a vivid image. So if we don't arrive, what happens to us?
We are rearranged. Malha says the adult is rearranged around the child. It's not a mutual crossing of a threshold. The parent's identity shifts not because they sat down and wrote a pros and cons list and decided to change, but through pressure. The sheer pressure of this new presence forces a new shape onto the parent.
He uses the term layering.
Yeah.
Right, which I found interesting compared to transformation.
Yes. And I think layering is a much healthier way to look at it than change. Change implies you stop being one thing and start being another. You trade the old model for the new one.
Right.
Layering implies that you have to hold who you were alongside what you now carry.
Which sounds exhausting. Trying to be the person you were, the person who liked quiet Sunday mornings and reading novels, while simultaneously being this rearranged infrastructure for a child.
It creates a friction. And that creates what Mala calls a quiet disorientation. I think this explains that slump so many parents feel 6 months or a year in. The adrenaline is gone, the visitors are gone, but the child arrives again and again. Every new developmental stage is a renewed demand on presence.
Oh, that's good.
You finally figure out the newborn phase, and then bam, they're a toddler. You are constantly being rearranged. You never get to settle into a finished shape.
Speaking of never settling, I want to move to the part of the essay that I think will resonate the most with our listeners. It's about the rewiring of the brain, specifically attention.
Yes.
Maha coins this term, porous attention.
This, for me, was the most validating concept in the entire piece, because it puts a name to a very specific frustration that I think every parent has felt but couldn't quite articulate.
Break it down for us. What is porous attention?
Maha contrasts before and after. Before a child arrives, your attention is your own property. It's a sealed unit.
Right.
You can withdraw it from the world. You can focus deeply on a book or a movie or just daydream. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. You can shut the door.
And afterwards?
Afterwards, the gate is broken. Attention becomes porous. It leaks. Even when the child is asleep or at school or in another room, a part of the parent is still listening.
A background orientation.
A background orientation that never switches off.
It's like a computer running a massive program in the background. Even if you're just typing a Word document, the fan is spinning, the RAM is used up.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a drain on your system resources. You might be sitting on the couch relaxing, but you aren't really relaxing. You're scanning.
You're waiting.
You're waiting for a cry or a crash or the school nurse to call. You are perpetually on standby.
I think a lot of parents feel guilty about this. I know I do. I sit there trying to read a book and I read the same sentence 4 times and I think, what is wrong with me? Why am I so anxious?
I need to learn to let go. I need to be more present.
Yes, all of that.
And that is exactly where Mala steps in to defend you. He argues that this is not anxiety, this is intelligence.
Intelligence. That's a generous way to frame My inability to focus.
But it's true, because the world is not safe in an absolute sense. It just isn't. And the child has zero capacity to manage that risk.
None of them.
Therefore, the parent's attention has to be porous to ensure survival. It's an evolutionary adaptation. It's a structural change, not a personal neurosis.
So judging yourself for never fully switching off is basically judging yourself for doing the job correctly.
Exactly. You are operating correctly within the field of parenting. Your brain has been rewired for surveillance because surveillance is required.
Wow.
If you could fully switch off, you wouldn't hear the silence. That means the toddler is painting the wall or the cough that sounds a little different than usual.
That is deeply comforting, actually. It's not that I'm bad at chilling out. It's that my software has been updated to Security Guard 2.0.
Precisely. And it's not just attention that gets rewired. It's your relationship with time itself. Mala argues that arrival breaks the parent's relationship with the present moment.
This is the time travel aspect of the essay. He talks about the entry of the forward horizon.
Yes. The moment a child arrives, the future enters the room. And it enters aggressively. You can't help it. Questions appear automatically. What will happen if? What will remain? What will they need?
It's true. You're looking at a 3-month-old, and suddenly you're worrying about high school bullying.
Or how you'll pay for university.
Or, and this is the dark one that creeps in at night, what happens to them when you're gone?
That is the strain of the future. Parents carry implied years in the current moment. Malha writes beautifully that even joy feels heavy because it implies its own passing.
Say more about that.
You're holding the baby, loving the moment, and simultaneously grieving that the moment is already slipping away. You are mourning the present before it's even become the past.
That is heavy. But it goes the other way too, right? It's not just the future pressing in, the past comes digging its way up.
It does. Parenting acts as a summoning circle for your own childhood, and Malha makes a distinction here that I think is brilliant. We often think this happens because we're trying to heal our inner child or do psychological work.
Right.
But he says, no, it's structural.
Structural how?
Because you have moved to a new vantage point within time. You are now the provider. You are standing where your parents stood. Things you ignored or forgot about your own upbringing suddenly feel significant because you are now responsible for a dependent. You see your own history through the lens of this new responsibility.
You understand the fear your parents felt or the mistakes they made with a completely different clarity.
A totally different clarity.
That word responsibility keeps coming up. It's the spine of this whole essay. But Malha distinguishes between responsibility as a list of tasks, like the chores, and responsibility as a weight.
This is critical for anyone feeling burnt out. We often try to solve the exhaustion of parenting with better systems.
Meal prep, chore charts.
Exactly. We hire cleaners. Those help with the tasks. But Malha says true responsibility is a heaviness in the chest. It's a tightening regarding risk. You cannot outsource that.
Right. You can hire a nanny to watch the kid, but you can't hire the nanny to carry the worry of whether the kid is happy.
Exactly. You cannot pay someone else to care about the outcome of a life as much as you do. That weight belongs to the structure of arrival. It cannot be managed away.
And this links directly to fear.
It does. Fear is a big one. In our culture, we treat fear like a pathology. If you're afraid, you should go to therapy. You should meditate. You should fix it.
But Malha flips that. He says fear is proportionate to love and responsibility.
If you love someone who arrived and stays, someone who is vulnerable, you live with the possibility of harm or loss. That is the deal.
That's a contract.
That is a contract. So if you're afraid, it's just proof that you love them.
Basically, yes. It's not a failure of resilience on your part. It's just the stakes of the game. The only way to not feel that fear would be to not care what happens to them.
That's a powerful reframe. Instead of fighting the fear, you accept it as the price of admission.
The price of admission for something that is deeply, deeply ordinary. And I love that Malha steers the essay back to the mundane at this point.
Yes.
He doesn't leave us in the philosophical clouds. He talks about finding shoes, making food, waiting in the car.
Listening to the same story about a cartoon dog for the 50th time, these aren't interruptions to life. We often feel like I'll start living my life again once I get these shoes on this kid. But Malha says no. This is the arrival. These moments are the texture of a life reorganized. This isn't a distraction from the main event. This is the main event.
But within that ordinary life, there is something we rarely talk about. Malha uses the word loss. And he doesn't mean the death of a child. He means the loss experienced by the parent.
This is the taboo. This is the thing you aren't supposed to say at the baby shower. There is an absence that arrives with the child.
A time that belonged to you.
Gone. The spaces that were yours changed. Your identity
Yeah.
stretched until it's transparent. Mala insists on the importance of naming this loss.
Why? Why focus on the negative? Shouldn't we focus on the gratitude?
Because if it's left unnamed, it curdles. It becomes resentment.
Ah.
If you feel a sense of loss, but you tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this, I love my child, that dissonance turns into anger or guilt. You snap at your partner or you hate yourself.
But if you recognize it as a structural part of arrival,
Yes.
that gaining a child mathematically requires losing your former autonomy, then the loss can coexist with the love.
Exactly. Those two facts are not enemies. They are just the reality of the situation. That is allowed.
That feels like permission. Permission to be human.
It is, and that leads us to the ultimate value of this essay. Why read something that tells you parenting is hard? You already know it's hard.
Right. It doesn't offer a solution. It doesn't tell you how to get the kid to sleep through the night.
No. It offers intelligibility. It makes it make sense. It offers dignity.
Dignity is an interesting word choice there.
Well, think about it. We live in a world that values autonomy above everything else. Control. Freedom, doing what you want when you want.
Sure.
Parenting is countercultural because it demands you submit to someone else's needs. It is a form of servitude, in a way. Maha is saying there is dignity in accepting that you are inside a form of time that is not self-directed.
It's the softening he talks about near the end. When you stop arguing with the structure, when you stop thinking you should be calmer or you should be more in control.
The experience softens. Yes, the exhaustion belongs to the structure, not the person. You aren't tired because you're doing it wrong. You're tired because carrying the weight of another life is heavy.
If you carry a boulder, you will sweat. It doesn't mean you're weak.
If the boulder is heavy.
Arrival is the beginning that never fully ends.
That's the line. It captures it all. It's not a destination. It's a state of being.
So bringing this back to our listeners, what do we actually do with this? It's a beautiful philosophy, but on a Tuesday morning when everyone is screaming and we can't find the shoes, how does this help?
I think for me, it changes how I look at the chaos. It asks us to stop looking for a finish line. There is no point where you say, okay, they've arrived, we're done. It's a continuous state.
So maybe that weight we feel, maybe we don't need to try so hard to put it down.
Or perhaps realizing that we can't put it down makes us stronger carriers. There is a relief in stopping the struggle against reality. When you accept that the porous attention and the fear are features, not bugs, you stop wasting energy trying to fix them.
You stop fighting the weather.
You stop fighting the weather.
I want to leave the listener with a thought here. We've talked about the heaviness and the loss of self and the fear, but Mullah ends on a note that isn't despairing.
No, not at all. It's deeply affirming. It suggests that by fully inhabiting this arrival, we are participating in something profound.
So, if we accept that this weight, this responsibility is permanent and normal, rather than a problem to be solved, does that actually make it easier to carry?
I think it does. When you stop trying to solve the fact that it's raining, you can just walk in the rain. You might even appreciate the water.
So, the next time you are looking for a lost shoe, or waiting for a teenager to come home past curfew, or listening for a cry in the night, try to see it not as a chore or an interruption to your real life. Try to see it as the ongoing proof of arrival, proof that someone is here.
And that they have not left.
And despite the exhaustion and the fear and the lost freedom, there is a lot of beauty in that fact.
There really is.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thank you.